How can we design better experiences? That's a main focus for business event strategists here in Austin. But what about designing the team to implement those experiences?
Think of your company like a lab and less like a factory. Labs test, iterate, experiment. Factories are very status quo based, linear. So avoid that mentality and think about just treating your organization like a lab.
Speaker Jacob Morgan inspired attendees to stretch their thinking on the work environments we create, and his advice also translates to the events that we organize.
One of the things I always look at personally is always food. Is it always like pastas and bread and pizzas, or are there some like healthy options that people might want to look at? Especially in an event like this, right? You eat a ton of unhealthy food and you're just going to kind of, schlep around from room to room. You might fall asleep in a session. So I would think about what you can do to provide food and meals and snacks that keep employees engaged and active. Nuts, salads, healthy things, fruits, things like that. That you eat them and you feel good, like you want to go from session to session. That's always a big thing. The physical environment is also good. Is your event in kind of like the basement where everything is dark and dimly lit, or do you have some kind of natural light around you? Is there something that brightens the room and livens it up a little bit? So stuff like that I think is always great and super helpful.
Morgan is part of PCMA's Thought Leader series, featuring speakers from outside the meetings industry. They're challenging perceptions on how we do business and how to deliver events differently. It's an experience you can replicate for your own attendees. PCMA's Senior Program Manager, Carrie Johnson, explains how.
It's working with some of their volunteer committees and getting a better understanding of them for what are some of the major challenges that's facing that particular industry or sector or segment. And once you kind of dig into some of those types of topics, that's when, if you're reading articles online, if you are working with your speaker bureaus, there's a number of different ways you can get help sort of thinking, okay, if these are some of the major challenges that are impacting this industry in particular, how is technology going to impact it? How is the global economy? How are some of these large things that are impacting how we consume, live, work, do business, how are some of those things going to impact this sector? Because we feel that big picture topics like that impact everyone, but in different ways. It's important to talk to the people, talk to the participants, kind of see where they're at, and then work and do your research and work with the bureaus. How can you stretch their thinking? How can you push their thinking into a different place and help them really expand what their perceptions are and help achieve some of their deliverables and things with some of this knowledge that not necessarily everybody gets.